Welcome to GabTalks, where we provide tools, tips, and techniques to help your life and business be easier, better, and faster. Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to the next episode of Gab Talks, success tips from experts. And you guys, I am bringing to you an awesome expert with a really brilliant mind and a big giant heart. Welcome to our show, Shiraz. How are you today?
I'm doing well, Gab. Thank you so much for having me on.
Yeah. So I know that you are an awesome expert in what you do. I've seen your website. I've gone to a couple of your classes. You are really, really brilliant. Will you share with our audience about you and your expertise?
I help people get out of what I call reality addiction. This is key to creating a lot of success because most people don't realize they're actually addicted to their current circumstances. They think, well, all I have to do is change things, and then they try to change things. But then when you have these repeated failures, you think I must be doing something wrong. But a lot of the time, it's just the addiction pulling you back because that's where it feels safe. That's what you're used to. That feels comfortable. And you have to break the addiction to change your success.
I so feel you on that. I know I've been there. So, you actually have a really interesting background that led you to this path. Will you share that
Mm.
with us?
So I started off regular kid going to university for molecular genetics. My family's full of doctors, so it was
Ah,
just like, oh, he's going to end up at some place in medical field. And I was also a bodybuilder. I was in the best shape of my life, and so everything was just lined up for me. I had the plan. I knew what I was going to do. The career was set up. And then at the age of 22, I got rheumatoid arthritis, and not just like, oh shoot, my shoulders hurt now. It was intense pain in
mm.
every joint in my body. There were nights where I sipped my dinner through a straw because my jaw was so swollen and painful I couldn't open it properly. It was crazy. It came on really quickly. And you may not have gone through something like that was painful, but I'm pretty sure you can relate to, you've got the plan, you can see where you're going, you're ready to execute the plan, and then out of nowhere, the plan is gone.
I think that happened to a lot of people when everything shut down in 2020. Like, it didn't have to be a health crisis, but we had a
Mhm.
worldwide crisis. And so I think if we take stock and take perspective, we can relate to the fact that you were in the best shape of your life going along doing what you were doing. And you had a body crisis that happened without you even having any idea that it was coming.
Exactly. And they tell you when adversity strikes, then you've got to just pick yourself up. You've got to work through it. You've got to hustle. And that's not what you do. There is despair. There is anger. There is victimhood. Like, all these emotions are coming. Why is this happening to me? What did I do to deserve this? And I hear all these people say, just deal with it. Just push through it. I'm like, no, you need time to process.
So you processed through it and you transformed your own life and you wound up getting to where you are today. When we were talking before, I was asking about your influences and you had an incredible mentor. Tell us about that.
It was interesting, even just how I found him, because at the time I got him, I was almost 20 years into the arthritis at that point. And I had
Ooh.
tried everything. I had tried medication and supplements and diet and yoga and acupuncture. And, basically, if someone said, oh, here's the next best thing that's going to help, I would try that. And the crazy thing is, everything worked for a little while, and then it would
Wow.
just stop working again. And I couldn't figure out what's going on. And my father found out about this program in India called Combined Therapy, run by this guy, Dr. Gashini. So I got on a plane and went over there because he said they've had success with multiple illnesses. And that really blew me away, because it's usually you go for someplace with arthritis or cancer or diabetes. Like, you don't go to a thing and everything gets cured. So I wasn't even sure this was going to work. But I go over there and I start working with this guy. And because it's in India, I figured he was probably going to do some Reiki healing, going, okay, Shiraz, we're going to just take care of your body. And I didn't even know if that was real or anything, but he just sat down and talked to me for 2 weeks. And I thought it was just, what's going on here? And it was like being with a psychiatrist, only he wasn't trying to fix anything. He was just gathering all this information. And at the end of it, he looks at me and he goes, so Shiraz, this is what happened. You have a belief that you're responsible for everyone in your life. I went, no, I don't. Why would I think that? He said, I know you don't think that consciously, but for everything we've talked about, you've created this belief, and it started when you were a little kid and your mom was sick and you wanted to help her. So you tried to be responsible, and it just grew through your life. So now you're responsible for everyone. And I was like, Okay. And I said, but what does that even have to do with arthritis? And he said, oh, you don't want to be responsible for everyone. He said, if you're lying in bed in pain, you don't have to be responsible for anyone, and you don't have to feel guilty about it. And no one can judge you for it. It's the solution to a problem you don't even realize you have. And I was just like, what? This is crazy. And he said, yeah, but that's what most chronic illnesses are: solutions to problems people don't realize they have.
That is literally mind-blowing.
And here's the thing, it's not just about illness.
Mm-hmm.
If you're not making the money you want, that problem, if it's consistent, is a solution to a problem you don't realize you have. If you keep meeting the wrong people for relationships or business partners, that problem is a solution to something else you're not looking at. And that's the big thing he taught me. And this is what I take to all the people I work with now. What's the actual problem? And of course, the first answer was like with me, no, that's not the problem. Like, that's ridiculous. But when you start to see what the benefit is, like, your brain prioritizes emotional distress over physical. So my brain thought it's more important for me not to feel guilty than to be in pain. Your brain can think it's more important for you not to have success than to be so visible that everyone's judging you and you might do something wrong and they might say bad things about you. That emotional distress takes the priority over the physical. And so your brain will self-sabotage to make sure you're just in that comfort level where everything feels safe.
That is incredible. And it's interesting because, this is success tips from experts with a business kind of a theme to it. And the people that are watching are entrepreneurs, salespeople, business owners, leaders. A lot of people out there that are leaders and have figured it out, push through this pain, this emotional pain. Some of them, I think, have figured it out, and some of them have the pain and they just keep forging ahead.
That's what causes burnout, though. It's what causes overwhelm. It catches up with you.
Absolutely. So one of the reasons why this show is Mindset Matters as a critical component to it is exactly the kind of stuff you're talking about. Because back in 2016, 2017, I myself hit a wall and I hit a depression. And when I came out of it, I had that, oh my gosh, I have to change in order to actually take myself to the next level and stop being the person that I don't like being, but I keep being. Exactly the kind of stuff you're talking about. And I think a lot of people find themselves in that space and don't know how to get out. And that's why we have someone like you and like your mentor.
It's amazing because a lot of times that thing that's blocking you is based on a situation that happened when you were a kid that you've decided is just what happens all the time, and it's no longer even real.
I think a lot of people out there have similar situations where everything's fine. It's just one tiny little thing that's off and it just. Hello, awesome listener. Thank you so much for joining us today at GabTalks Success Tips from Experts. We're going to take a short break and say thank you to our sponsors. It is through the generous support of these sponsors that we are able to bring to you these amazing experts that are sharing their best tips for your success. So please listen to what our sponsors have to say, and hopefully they're going to inspire you that you're going to click their links and go support them. Global Prosperity Academy, GPA, is a community of like-minded individuals that are heart-centered and mission-driven, focusing on high-level communication training, leadership development, and strategic community building. Take a look at the video in the link below and see how GPA is right for you.
This is Tony Stark Polici, copywriter, marketing consultant, and author. And I have a question for you. If you could take $20 and turn it into 1,000 or 5,000 or 10,000 or 100,000, would you do it? Well, you can. And it's not through gambling. It's not investing in the stock market. It's by buying this book. That's right, my book. This was voted number 9 out of the top 100 best copywriting books ever written. And I wrote it for you, for business owners, to help you write better emails, better sales copy, better advertisement, to communicate better in all of your marketing and business communications. This book will change your business and your life. Try it. You're going to love it.
So I'd like to ask you if you could go back to that 22-year-old self that had that sudden situation happen, and you could give yourself a piece of advice that might change your path, what would that be?
you're not responsible for anyone in this world except for you. And that doesn't mean you don't help people. It just means you don't have to feel that weight of responsibility for everyone. When you just worry about yourself, focus on you, then you'll find you have that space and that choice to help people when it's required, but it doesn't feel heavy when you do.
That is phenomenal advice. A few years ago, I had someone teach me everyone is doing the best they can in the moment that they are. And if we try to help them and they don't take that, we can't be responsible for that. But it's hard. We're taught to believe that we're responsible for our family and for our coworkers and for employees and for our boss. What would you say to that?
Everyone's trying to teach you what they know, but over 90% of the world has been taught the wrong things. And it's not like they're trying to screw you up. They're just saying, well, this is what I was taught, so I'm just going to pass it on. But a lot of it goes so far back, like taking care of the family, making sure everyone's safe in the family. That goes all the way back to caveman, because people would literally die if they strayed away. Nowadays, it's just more that you're feeling guilty. Most people can't handle their problems. And the other thing is, I found that sometimes you have to let people fail because you keep trying to help them and you just become this crutch. You don't give them a reason to grow and push themselves to be different. And when you let them fall and fail, then they have to pick themselves up. That actually happened with my brother. I was supporting him for a while. Finally, I had to cut off the funds because I realized he was spending more of my money than I was. And I'm like, I'm working for all of this. And I cut him off and there was a huge fight. I mean, this is what's going to happen. When you start to change, people are going to push back. You've got to deal with that. But then it was a couple of years later, I was visiting. He and his family had a house. They were having renovations done. And he was talking to the contractor and he's like, we want this, this, and this. And the contractor says, that's going to be like 20,000 on its own. He's like, oh, we got it. I'm like, you got it? Wait a sec. Because he had built himself so far after being forced to. And I was so happy with him. I was also really, really shocked. But while I was responsible for him, that couldn't have happened.
I have a person that is very dear to me that had, not financially, but a very similar situation where they made a big change in their life because I insisted on it and they did okay until they didn't. And then I said, I can't do this anymore. And we didn't communicate for 4 years. And during that time, they stopped and started and stopped and started. And when we finally communicated again, they have been on a much stronger, more solid path by their own choice. And now it's been 3 years instead of, a few months here, stop, start, stop, start. It's incredible when you put people in the position of wanting to do it for themselves. Yeah. And having to.
And the responsibility also goes into your business too, because you want to create an environment. If you have employees, you want to create an environment where your employees can thrive. That's your responsibility, but you're not responsible for your employees individually, because when you try to do that, then, if they're having a bad time at home, suddenly you're responsible for their home life. Like it's just, okay, I've given you this. Now let's see what we can do to get you to thrive. And then it also carries to your clients. Like, especially if you're a coach, then if you feel responsible for every client, every new client is a weight on your shoulder. And if you don't get the best session out of a client, then when you go to the next client, you're not going to be fully present because you didn't get the best session out of that client. So you're going to have worse results. And then when you go to the next client, if now you may have 2 clients you're worried, and it just gets worse and worse and worse. So when I work with someone, I'm fully present. I give the best contribution I can in that moment. And then we're done. I'm no longer responsible for you at the end of that session. And it's not that I'm like, I don't care about my clients, but if I were to do what I just described, I'd be completely inefficient. And I wouldn't be able to be there in the way I need to be for my clients.
Well, not just coaches. Everybody, we have this idea that in order to be successful, we have to take on responsibility and own the issues or concerns, or like we're taught to sell something to somebody, we have to understand their pain. And then so often we empathize and take on their pain in order to sell to them. And we don't need to do that. So we've already gotten into some fabulous advice and tips for our audience that they can take away and think on and really put into practice in their life right now. But I know you have a few other great pieces of advice that you can share with us.
When you want to change things in your life, number one, you've got to be able to focus on what you want. And that seems pretty straightforward, but it's hard to execute. And it's not just about who you want. It's the whole I don't. And sometimes it seems really important. Like if you watched someone in a similar business and they completely rip people off and you say, well, I don't want to be like them. I got to make sure I'm never like them.
Right.
Well, now your energy is all going into not being them and none of it's going into being you. And the thing about it is your subconscious mind, it doesn't like to compartmentalize things. When you're trying not to be someone, if they're really, really rich, even though they're being a horrible person, well, then to not be like them, there's no way you can be rich. In order to satisfy that, I'm not going to do this, your subconscious will look at all the different aspects and say, okay, I got to make sure I'm never those things. That's one thing I find with a lot of people that are trying to create a lot of money and success. If they complain about the millionaires and billionaires of the world all the time, they will try and keep their income as far away from that level as possible so they don't become one of those things that they hate.
And they don't even realize it.
No. They'll complain, how come they get the money and I don't? So, well, they get the money because they're willing to have the money and you don't get it because you don't want to be them. And you don't realize you've made this internal choice that if I have the money, I will be like them. You have to look at it more as individuals. There are individuals out there with lots of money that are jerks. They're horrible people, but there are also individuals out there with lots of money that you're like, oh my God, keep going, keep going. The other thing that brings up for a lot of people is it fair? There's a big belief out there that it's unfair for some people to have so much while others are suffering. And look, on the surface, it's like, yeah, how come all these people have so much wealth and they're not sharing it? It's like it's completely unfair. But when you start breaking it down, you realize that there are these people that saying, I'm not going to have money because I don't want to be like those big millionaires. So they're actually creating lack and suffering unconsciously to keep from being that. If you're saying to yourself, I can't have a lot of money while people are suffering, but those people are unconsciously choosing suffering, you're never going to have a lot of money. And no one consciously chooses to suffer, but most people unconsciously choose. And so you have to let all that go. It's just about what are you willing to create? How much influence would you like? And go from there. But the other thing is you're in a much better position to help those people who are suffering if you're successful.
That said, when you are helping the people who are suffering, you can't be responsible for their choices if you do the best you can.
Exactly.
So they go hand in hand.
Yep.
Wow. On each episode of GabTalks Success Tips from Experts, we like to highlight a hero sponsor who is a business that chooses to highlight a do-good organization in their own community that is bettering the world. Today's hero sponsor is...
Hello, I'm Deborah Thorne, the Information Diva, author, coach, trainer, speaker, and the proud host of the Leverage Conference for speakers, authors, and entrepreneurs. Today, it is my pleasure to highlight one of my favorite nonprofit organizations, Demo Chicks. Demo Chicks empowers, elevates, and enlightens girls and young women in the non-traditional fields of architecture, construction, and engineering. For more information about Demo Chicks, please use the link below. Thank you for your support.
So I think a lot of people out there need to get unstuck, and they need to be able to reach out to you and see how they can work with you, find out how you can help them get unstuck. Will you share with us how people can reach you?
You can reach me at energeticmagic.com. And I also have a digital business card.
Awesome. The link will be down below to energeticmagic.com. And we will also make sure that the digital business card is down in the show notes and in the description. And I know you have an amazing offer that everyone will benefit from as well. Can you share with us what that is?
So the offer is actually a success quiz, and it's a spreadsheet. You're just going to go in and answer a bunch of questions. And at the end, it's going to give you a percentage chance of success that you currently have. And you can see where you can improve to increase the chance of success. It's surprising when you see the results on this.
Well, that's really awesome. And considering that this show is Success Tips from Experts, a success quiz is perfect. So you guys click the link, take your own quiz, and again, reach out to Shiraz. I am super excited that I got to share you with our audience today. And you guys, don't forget to subscribe, click the reminder so you know when our next episode is airing. Hey, thanks so much for watching. We hope you got value today. we want to give a huge shout out of gratitude to our contributors. Please make sure you click the subscribe button below and don't forget to click the bell up above to get reminders when we add new content.